What if there isn't a God? Like, what if there's no such thing as God? And this thought popped up yesterday. It just randomly popped up in my head. I've been having this thought, you know, but it just randomly popped up in my head yesterday. But what if there's no such thing as God? And then my rebuttal to it was, so it don't matter. To me, at a point where I'm at in life, and how I see life and how I see things is that it does not matter if there's a such thing as God. Again, it doesn't matter. Why should it matter if there's a God or not? Like, really sit back and ask yourself, what does it matter if there's a God or not? What does it matter? If God is not real, will you start treating people wrong? If God is not real, does it change your heart posture upon, forgiveness? If God is not real, will you start treating people how you don't want to be treated? Will you start lying, cheating, stealing, manipulating? Will you start doing all these things if God isn't real? You know? Will you not believe in karma? Will you not believe, in certain things? Will you move differently if there's no such thing as God? Because to me, these are all the things that make you a good person. That's the only thing that matters. Is right now, what you do right now, what's present right now, what you can see right now. And to me, that's the reason why God is hidden, or God is where he is now, or divine, or whatever the case may be. That's why it is right now where you can't see it. Because to me, it doesn't matter. It literally does not matter. Why does it matter if there's a God or not? It shouldn't matter. You should still operate every day as a heightened individual. You should treat everybody the same. How I see it. Why would you treat anybody differently if there's no such thing as a God? The earth wouldn't exist as it is now. You know how much turmoil would be as a world if there's no such thing as, if people believed in that? Now, personally, I believe there's a God, or there's something out there that balances everything out. But it may not be how we think or how we've been taught. But like I said last night when I was talking to myself, I said, even if there is or isn't, there's no reason it shouldn't matter. And I think that's why a lot of atheists get a bad rap, because I'm not atheist by any chance, but, atheists, we always think that they're evil because they don't believe in God, or that's the rap that we give a lot of atheists. But to be honest with you, a lot of atheists may be cool. And that's one thing I want to ask is that if you could have that thought pattern about God not being real, does that mean that you change how you treat people? Does it change the way you go about life? Now, I could understand, beliefs about certain things will change, but does that change how you go about life? Because if I was to say, okay, boom, I did not believe in God, I would still treat people the same way because that's the way my heart posture is. I would still treat people the same way. I would still go life about the same way. I would still be a positive person, positive mental attitude, all that type of shit. I would still think what I do unto others come back to me because that's just the way I see the world go. It's physical proof. It's proof about that. So why would anything change? Nothing would change. And topics like this is taboo because you're not supposed to think like that, or you're not supposed to question. But then again, I said, who was the one who came out and said, you're not allowed to question? This is why I believe like your relationship with God, your relationship with divinity, your relationship with the universe is personal between you and that. Because who is the person that commissioned the person to write the Bible? Who is the person who actually wrote the Bible? Who is the person who did this? Who is the person who did that? Who is the person who did this? Who is the person who did that? You see how long this road goes. When you really start breaking it down, you see how long and far this road goes, where there's so many questions that you could be asking. To where when you get rid of all that, to me, all that's like the middleman. Like you can find positive things in there that can help you. Don't get me wrong. But when you get rid of all that and it's just you and God, or it's just you say, or you ask yourself, I know if I treat people correctly, I feel good. If I treat people correctly, I know that's something positive, and I know that's going to help, the general collective of the world. So why would you do any other? That's just a bad apple. That bad apple is going to be a bad apple either way. Right? That's how I see it. That bad apple is still going to be a bad apple. So in those cases, like I said, those people, it didn't matter if God was real or not, because those people was going to do what they wanted to do. So that's why I ask now, does it matter if God is real or not? And like I said, I don't think it matters. It don't matter if God is real or not. It don't matter what you call God. All that don't matter. That's a personal relationship between you and whatever source you believe in, because it keeps you more aligned. It helps you out on this plane. But like they say, a rose with a different name is still gonna smell sweet. And that's the same thing. A God with a different name is still gonna do what it do. If God is so powerful, God is all this, God is all that, right? You think he's really gonna trip if you call him a different name, but you still do what you gotta do? Or you still being an upright person? You think he's gonna trip? If he's this powerful, you think he's gonna trip? Well, I feel like if he was this powerful or that powerful, and he wanted us to know his name, if he left everything else, then we would know what he looked like. We would know this. We would know that. We would know certain things that we've been questioning if he really wanted us to know. And that's why I feel like it doesn't matter. That might be the biggest test, is to say, how are you going to act when you don't know it's really real? How are you going to act if you don't know if it's really real? How you gonna act if you don't know if there's a heaven and a hell? How you gonna act if you don't know there's a real God? How you gonna know? How you gonna act if you don't know if this real thing is karma or there is and this ain't? How you gonna act? That might be the biggest test of them all. How you gonna act? What's your real heart posture like? Because a lot of people got a heart posture towards positivity or doing right because they believe that's gonna get them into heaven, not genuinely because that's who they are. So how real is that? You only doing this because you want a certain outcome, not really because this is who you are. So you really think if God is this powerful, you should know he already knows you on bullshit. He already knows what type of timing you on. Right? Let's not play stupid. If he's this powerful, then he would know deep down inside that you trying to play him. Right? Just keeping it real. How would he not know? To me, like I said, that's the biggest thing. What if it ain't real? How would you act? That's the ultimate test of character. That's the ultimate test of who you are as a person. Morning. That's the ultimate test. It's like if you was dating somebody and you found out it wasn't real, how you gonna treat them? You're just gonna be like, oh, treat them bad, or you're gonna still treat them like a human being, keep it moving forward, but you be cordial. How would you act if you had to help somebody and you got nothing in return? Versus how would you help somebody and you got everything in return? Your heart shouldn't change. Like I said, I think that's the ultimate test. That's why it's so questionable about the names and the this and the that and this and the that. It's so questionable because it's like, okay, so what if it ain't? How you gonna act? How you gonna act? To me, that's the ultimate sign. It's like what they say. That's the ultimate judge of a character. Is what would you do or how do you act when nobody's around? That's the ultimate judge of character. Like if there's a trash can, you throw something at the trash can, you try to put something in the trash can, and it doesn't get into there, and it falls on the floor, and there's nobody around. Are you the type of person to still pick it up, put it in the trash can, or are you the type of person to keep walking and say, "Oh, because nobody's around, I don't have to pick it up"? Well, if you're the latter, if you're the type of person who's just gonna leave it on the ground because nobody's around, that's the type of people I'm talking about. Those type of people who's only performing because they believe that if you act properly, you get into heaven. You act properly, God's gonna show you favor. They're not doing it because it's the real character of who they are. They're not doing it because of that. They're doing it because they believe they get something on the back end of that. I'm speaking to the people who know that this is your true character. That if there's nobody around and you throw something at the trash can and don't go in, you still gonna put it in because you know that's what you're supposed to be doing as a person. That's who it is on your heart. That's who your heart truly is. To me, that's what matters. Not all this performative shit people have for God. God knows all these people be performing. These people ain't really real. Needs to be the same people who go to church and then cut you off in traffic and then look dead at you and not even say, I'm sorry, I apologize, nothing, nothing, nothing. I'm in a rush, I'm in a hurry, nothing. Cut you off dead in traffic and look dead at you as if you the son of God. I mean, the son of Satan. Like to me, I just think it's backwards. I think a lot of folks is backwards. I think a lot of people out here performing. I think a lot of people out here don't really love God. I think a lot of people out here just acting and going along to get along in order to go to this place that they believe is heaven when they die. And I think God's gonna turn a lot of these people around when it's time for them to go. When they at that heaven gate, if there's a heaven gate, I think God is gonna turn a lot of people around. Because God was like, nope, that wasn't really who you were. That's not really who you are in your heart. You was down there on earth 86 years and you was playing. You thought you was playing me. You went to church. That wasn't really who you were. You said this and this and this, and you acted like this and this and this, but you only did it because you thought you was going to get up in here. And that wasn't really who you were. That wasn't in your heart. You didn't give from a true, genuine place in your heart. You wasn't apologetic. You didn't forgive. You still had hate on your heart. So no, you can't come in here. I'm telling you, that's what I really think. That's what I really think. If there's a real heaven and hell, and if heaven and hell is on here, like a lot of people say, then I believe that if you really living in heaven, then that means you're abiding by the things that would get you into heaven. You treat people as you want to be treated. You help when you can. You give when you can, without expecting anything in return. You don't lie. You don't cheat. You don't manipulate. Now, you do the best that you can. Genuinely, with your heart, you do the best that you can. And when I say don't lie, don't cheat, don't manipulate, like I said, to the best of your abilities, as much as you can. God knows the truth. God knows if you're working on yourself. God knows if you did this out of malicious intent or it just slipped or this and this and this and you want people out your business. God knows the truth. Like I said, I'm not a big stickler on all these things. To me, it's your intentions and God knowing the truth. It's just like you tell somebody a lie or a false truth because you don't want them in your business. It's not that, and they don't deserve to be in your business. That's not you being intentionally rude or you being intentionally this or you being malicious or this and this. No, you don't want certain people in your business. And I don't think God will frown upon that. But if your wife asked you what you was doing and you was cheating on her and you lied to her, now I think God will frown upon you upon that. Universe will frown upon you upon that. But like I said, how would people act? How would you act if there's no such thing as God? If God ain't real? How would you act if there's no such place as heaven? If it wasn't guaranteed? I think that's the true test of character. That's the true test of man. That's the true test right there. It's how would you act? And to be truthfully honest, I don't think a lot of people would make it to that so-called place, heaven. A lot of people wouldn't make it. If it was really testing the true character of people's hearts, they wouldn't make it. God would know a lot of these people are performative. It ain't really real. I just feel that it ain't really real. I think a lot of people perform because they believe it gives them a spot in heaven. It gives them, grace with God. Because I firmly believe the world would be a better place. We wouldn't have all this racism. We wouldn't have all this, all these things that hold people back, all these systematic things. We wouldn't be, treating people wrong. We would be organized. We would abide by organization. We wouldn't be wishing, evil or death or this and this and this upon other people, especially due to some indifferences. We wouldn't be quick to take somebody's life, due to a certain indifference. Especially if a trespass wasn't placed upon you. We wouldn't be so quick. We would see everybody as equal. We would see everybody as us. And that's why I just believe a lot of people don't really, believe in God, or a lot of people are just not righteous people. Whether they believe a Bible, read the Bible, know the Bible back and forth, or Quran, or whatever the case may be, whatever religious text they believe in. I just, I have it firm on my heart. A lot of people are not really real. A lot of people are not who they say they are. A lot of people don't believe what they say they believe. Anyways, let me know how y'all feel about this. This Rich. Gotta be safe out there. Love and blessings.